They trained together, Aizawa thought grimly. They learned each other. And they learned from me asterisk, without ever meeting me. Aizawa barely managed to hook Bakugu right-s wrist and redirect a strike, but Bakugu twisted with it, using the momentum to spin free instead of fighting the hold. His foot swept low, forcing Aizawa to jump back. And the instant he landed, Bakugu was there again. The timer chimed. Bakugu stopped instantly. Not winded, not shaken, just alert, eyes still locked on Aizawa, body coiled like he was waiting for permission to continue. Aizawa released erasure slowly. Silence swallowed ground beta. Bakugu straightened and stepped back without being told, jaw tight, chest barely rising with exertion. Aizawa stared at him. Midoriya had frightened him because he thought asterisk. Bakugu frightened him because he didn't stop asterisk. Not mindless, not arrogant. Relentless. Aizawa turned his gaze to where Midoriya stood watching, eyes sharp, already comparing movements, already learning. Then back to Bakugu, who stood like a weapon someone had taught when to strike and when to hold. Without quirks, Aizawa realized these two are already enough. Enough to corner villains. Enough to end fights. Enough to survive where others would die. Together or apart, they didn't need flashy power to inspire fear. They were fear. Aizawa exhaled slowly, scarf settling around his shoulders. UA hadn't just accepted prodigies. It had accepted two boys who had been forged the hard way, by neglect, by training, by each other. And for the first time in his career, Aizawa Shouta wasn't sure if the world was ready for what they would become. But he would make damn sure they were. Aizawa finished the rest of Class 1A efficiently. There were bruises, frustration, a few students who surprised him, many who didn't. Lessons were learned the way they always were under his supervision, quickly and without ceremony. By the time he dismissed the last one, the sun had shifted and the concrete radiated heat back up into the air. Only one student remained. The purple-haired boy. Kadoma. He stood a little apart from the others, posture loose, hands in his pockets, expression unreadable in a way that set Aizawa right-s teeth on edge. Not lazy, not nervous. Watching. Bakugu and Midoriya stood off to the side, supposedly relaxed. They weren't fooling anyone. Their shoulders were tight. Their weight was forward. Not aggressive, asterisk alert asterisk. The same instinct that had made them tense when Kadoma entered the classroom now hummed just beneath their skin. Aizawa noticed. Interesting, asterisk he thought. Kadoma, Aizawa said, you're last. The boy smiled faintly and stepped forward. Figures. Same rules, Aizawa continued. No quirks. Kadoma tilted his head. That might be a problem. Aizawa right-s eyes narrowed. Explain. My quirk, always on, Kadoma said calmly. Doesn't matter if you erase it, the effects linger. That earned him a longer look. Show me, Aizawa said. He activated erasure anyway. Kadoma moved. And for half a second, Aizawa thought he was fighting Midoriya. The footwork was wrong, asterisk not quite asterisk, but the timing was there. The angles. The way Kadoma shifted just out of reach instead of away, the way he baited attacks instead of avoiding them outright. Then Kadoma pressed forward. And suddenly it was Bakugo. The aggression spiked, the pressure doubled. No pause, no space to breathe. Aizawa barely deflected a strike that came in sharp and fast, more force than Midoriya, but not as much as Bakugo. What? Aizawa adjusted, faster this time. Kadoma adapted. Not learned. Copied. Aizawa right-s eyes sharpened. Kadoma didn't fight like a beginner mimicking styles he'd seen on TV. He fought like someone who had asterisk borrowed asterisk muscle memory wholesale, but something was off. Each movement was slightly weaker, slightly slower, like a recording played at reduced volume. Half. Aizawa tested the theory. He increased speed. Kadoma kept up, then lagged. A feint that Midoriya would have read instantly fooled Kadama for a fraction of a second. A pressure chain Bakugo would have powered through forced Kadama to disengage. Aizawa stepped back, breathing steady now. "Copy," he said. Kadama smirked, among other things. "You don't just copy quirks," Aizawa continued. "You copy people asterisk." Kadama shrugged. "Half of them, skills, reflexes, physical output." His eyes flicked briefly asterisk, to Midoriya and Bakugo. "Only lasts about 30 minutes. Aizawa felt something cold settle in his chest. That explained it. Why Bakugo and Midoriya had reacted the way they did. Predators recognized predators. "You copied them," Aizawa said. "Not completely," Kadama replied. "Can't, they're too much." A pause, honest. "I'd break if I tried." That was not reassurance. Aizawa ended the fight with a clean disarm and a controlled takedown. Kadama hit the ground hard but safely, breath knocked from his lungs. Aizawa released erasure and stepped back. "Enough." Kadama laughed weakly as he sat up. "Yeah, thought so." Aizawa turned slowly. Bakugo looked annoyed, not threatened. Midoriya looked thoughtful, eyes narrowed in analysis rather than fear. Both of them had already clocked Katama right quote S limits. Stronger than most asterisk Aizawa thought, but still beneath them. That didn't make Katama safe. It made him dangerous in a different way. Aizawa addressed the class. "You've all been assessed," he said. "Some of you rely too much on your quirks. Some of you don't understand combat at all." His eyes lingered on Katama, then shifted to Bakugo and Midoriya. "And some of you," he continued, "are walking proof that raw power is the least interesting thing about a hero." He turned away, scarf settling around his shoulders. "Training resumes tomorrow," Aizawa said. "If you want to survive this course, keep improving." As the class began to disperse, Aizawa allowed himself one final thought. Midoriya Izuku was a monster because he thought asterisk. Bakugo Katsuki was a monster because he never stopped. And Katama was a mirror. And mirrors, Aizawa knew from experience, were often the most dangerous thing in the room. Aizawa returned to the classroom after dismissal, more out of habit than urgency. The yellow sleeping bag lay slung over the back of his chair where he'd left it that morning. He reached for it, already half checked out, mind sorting through training schedules and incident reports. "Sensei." Aizawa paused. Katama stood near the doorway, hands no longer in his pockets, posture straighter than it had been all day. The lazy grin was gone. In its place was something more restrained, measured. That alone was unexpected. "Yes," Aizawa said, not turning around yet. Katama hesitated. Aizawa turned then, really looking at him. The boy wasn't smirking, wasn't posturing. His shoulders were tense in a way Aizawa recognized immediately, not fear. Not arrogance. Uncertainty. "What do you want?" Aizawa asked. Katama exhaled through his nose, then met his eyes directly. "I want to know how to get stronger." Aizawa blinked once. That was not what he'd expected. "You're already ahead of most of the class," Aizawa said flatly. "You know that." Katama's jaw tightened. "I know I'm ahead of asterisk them." He gestured vaguely toward the empty desks. "But not them." He didn't need to say their names. "Midoriya Izuku. Bakugo Katsuki." "I can copy half," Katama continued, voice lower now. "Half their speed, half their instincts, half their power, and even then," he let out a sharp breath, "even then I still feel like I'm chasing their shadows." Aizawa felt something shift. This wasn't envy. This was frustration, the kind that came from seeing a ceiling and realizing you didn't know how to break it. "You fight like them," Aizawa said slowly. "Why is that enough?" Katama's eyes flickered. "Because it's not mine asterisk," he admitted. "It fades, 30 minutes and it's gone, and when it's gone," he clenched his fists, "I'm just me." Silence stretched. Aizawa picked up his sleeping bag and slung it over his shoulder, gaze never leaving Katama. And you, Aizawa said, are relying on borrowed skill instead of building your own. Katama winced, not defensively, but like he'd been waiting to hear it said out loud. I don't want to be a mirror forever, Katama said. I don't want to disappear the moment I'm not standing next to someone stronger than me. That did it. Aizawa sighed, not tired, but resigned in the way he got when he realized something was going to require effort. Midoriya and Bakugo didn't get where they are by copying, Aizawa said. They got there by grinding fundamentals until they became instinct. Katama nodded. That's why I'm asking. Aizawa studied him for a long moment. Cocky, yes, sharp-tongued, dangerous in the wrong direction. But he'd asked. Not demanded, not challenged. Asked. You're ahead of most of your class, Aizawa said finally. But you're behind where you think you should be because you skipped the boring part. Katama grimaced. Figures. If you want help, Aizawa continued, then we strip you down to basics. No copying, no shortcuts, conditioning, footwork, situational awareness. You build something that doesn't disappear in 30 minutes. Katama's eyes widened slightly. You do that. Aizawa turned toward the door. If you're serious. Katama straightened. I am. Aizawa paused at the threshold. Then stop measuring yourself against Midoriya and Bakugo, he said without looking back. They're not your benchmark. Katama frowned. Then what is? Aizawa glanced over his shoulder, eyes sharp but not unkind. Your worst day, he said. Beat that first. Katama stood there for a moment after Aizawa left, something unfamiliar settling in his chest. Hope. And for the first time since enrolling at UA, Aizawa Shouda allowed himself to think that maybe, just maybe, this class wouldn't just survive. They might actually learn how to become heroes. Aizawa had just finished setting up his sleeping bag in the corner of the faculty lounge when his phone vibrated. He frowned at the screen. Nezu asterisk. That alone was enough to make him answer immediately. Speak, Aizawa said, voice flat. Ah, Shouda, Nezu's cheerful tone crackled through the speaker. I thought you might like a bit of extracurricular information. Aizawa closed his eyes briefly. If this is about paperwork, I'm hanging up. Oh no, no paperwork, Nezu replied, sounding far too pleased. In fact, it's about two of your asterisk students. Aizawa's brow furrowed. Midoriya and Bakugo.